Welcome to the Catalyst Life Coaching Podcast with John Kim and Noelle Cordeaux. If you're inspired to begin your own life coaching practice or just want to learn a little bit more about what it's all about, visit JRNI.co. That's JRNI.co for more information. Your adventure awaits.
Hey guys, on this week's episode of the Catalyst Life Coaching Intensive Podcast, we're going to talk about how to share your story as a life coach and also why it's important. Noelle, good morning.
Good morning.
How did you sleep last night?
I slept great. How about you?
Oh, don't ask me. You know how I am with sleeping.
It comes in, so it was one of those, I've been having really vivid dreams recently. And last night I was in this like half asleep, half awake where I think my brain didn't want to have another weird dream.
Well, do you like when you dream or does it scare you?
It doesn't scare me. I've just been like, what is my brain doing?
Yeah.
Like, I've been having the weirdest dreams.
Sometimes dreams are so powerful that residue affects you for the entire day.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my subconscious is a weird, wacky jungle. And
Yeah.
so I was like, maybe I need to go for some analysis. That might be interesting.
Yeah. I find dreams fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that, and this is just personally me, sharing your story as a life coach is one of the most important things. And this is not for everyone, right? I don't know if it's for Noelle, but for me, it just resonated with me and my story. And I think it's so important. But let's talk about how we do it and why it's important. What are your thoughts on sharing your story as a life coach?
I have a million thoughts on it. And I think you're right. It is so important and it is so helpful to share your story with others, right?
Right.
Because when folks see you coming from a position of vulnerability, from humanity, and even of power, having now moved through something and are standing on the other side of it, kind of waving like a beacon to others, it's a signal that, you can do this. You can grow, you can heal, you can change, and you can change in really drastic and profound ways.
Right. And I think with the injection of technology, it's just the way that you do it and the reach is endless.
It is endless. And the notes that I took down for before this conversation today were about, things that you have to consider
Right.
before moving into this arena. So you and I are both pretty practiced. We've both been doing this for about a decade,
Yeah.
but it was really scary at first.
Sure. Absolutely. I I think for me, because where I was in my life, because I was coming out of a divorce, and I actually didn't have much of a life, meaning I didn't have friends, I didn't have a solid job, I was in transition, I was very alone. And so sharing my story for me was almost like a personal therapeutic journey. I didn't know anyone would want to hear it. I just kind of did it for myself. It was like a personal diary a digital diary that I just decided to post. So it wasn't like our catalyst today, where they're going through branding, social media is a thing, and now they have the pressure to use social media to share your story. I think I would have been a lot more afraid if I lived in today's world when I started.
I agree. And I think you said something really important that you didn't know anyone would want to hear your story.
Right.
So at the starting line, did you have any idea what it would actually be like to have hundreds and thousands of followers and people taking their own meaning from your work and wanting to connect with you in real life, and how that might impact your family or relationships? Where was your sense of consciousness around this?
Yeah, no, of course not. I didn't know any of that. I knew that I need to express myself because I was hurting and it wasn't something I was used to doing. Um, and there was a new platform called Tumblr, and a friend said you should do it there. It's really easy. And so I just started there. And then I just started writing and expressing all the revelations I had and the difficulties I was going through, and then also my feelings. But also, I was also sharing my therapist journey, because that's where I was at the time.
And it built and built and built into a full blown career of creating content from a therapeutic perspective.
Yeah, now it's become a thing. And there was just an article, I think it was a New York Post, I'm not sure, or LA Times, about the explosion of therapists on Instagram, and not just therapists but life coaches, and how uh, we're using Instagram as a tool to, I mean, it's just become your own channel, and there was a huge article on that, and I mean, it's a good thing. And so uh, I think it's great, but the other thing is that now it gives people pressure to do it, and this is what I think is it wasn't there for me, but it is now for all the coaches today.
It is there now, and it's also really hard to get started. And so I want to mirror a little bit of a different path
Hmm.
because I had a really different experience than
Yes.
you. So I started writing very tentatively. I'm a great writer. I love to write. And I wrote an article about what it was like to recover from eating disorders and depression,
Hmm.
and that there was light on the other side. And it was a beautiful piece. It was really well received. I still get feedback today that sometimes people find it and they really feel a lot better because of it. But what happened for me was I got a phone call from my mother who was crying.
Mm.
And she
Because she loves it
was,
so much.
no, because she saw the article and she was horrified and ashamed that I would put that I started dealing with eating disorders and depression from an age 7, which I did,
Right.
that was honest,
Right.
out into the world. And she felt like it was a direct reflection of her as a mother and how
Yeah.
could I do that?
Right.
And
That
she was scared for me.
that's actually a very common response from family members when they read your work that indirectly involves them. So
That,
they kind of, without intentionally, they are making it about them.
oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And too, I think I've heard this a lot from parents who say, how will my kids perceive what I put out into the world when they're old enough to, stumble upon my writing? Or how about my ex-husband or my ex-wife or my ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend that I write about? How will these people be impacted? And so there are things to take into consideration. The next thing that happened for me was I started my own little blog, and I shared it on Facebook.
Hmm.
And I am a feminist coach and I work with feminist issues. And I wrote something about rape and rape culture. And I got my first internet troll.
Mm.
And I did not like it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not fun for me
Sure.
to engage with a member of the general public who knew my face and my name in this way, and it really freaked me out. And so at that time I decided to consciously step back behind the curtain
Right.
in a certain way, and I don't document my life, but I do still share my story very openly and quite often, just not in the same method that you do, John, of like
Right.
having a channel.
And I love that we are so different because then we could be living examples of the spectrum, right? So if you and I did the exact same thing, um, we wouldn't have different perspectives, and we would only have one way of doing it, or maybe talking about that way. But because we did take different paths and we have different styles, I mean, where we overlap is that we're both writers, you know.
Yes.
But let me ask you this: so today, because now you are a little bit more active, you do Facebook Lives and you do podcasting a lot, and then of course you still write. Do you enjoy this, or is it more work for you?
I
Oh,
really enjoy podcasting.
yeah.
I really enjoy writing. Um, I still have no idea what I'm doing on social media. My Instagram
Mm.
feed is me, Noelle, the Fraggle of an imperfect human. It is not curated, it is not intentional.
Which is lovely, and sometimes you pop up on my feed, and I like, oh, that's Noelle. I love it. I think they're great, and you take photos of the beach and parts of your life and all of that.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
me as a human. And
Yes.
I've kind of even disappeared from Facebook except in the Catalyst. collective group that I'm really active in with our coaches. And I
Right.
do most of my writing, my personal writing for our community. I don't publish it widely outside.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think you have to share your story in a way that's honest to you and also at your pace. I think what's dangerous today is comparing how other people are doing it and thinking that you are doing it wrong, or maybe you're not doing it enough because that of that comparison, and you should stay away from that.
Absolutely. And something I have started doing that I think is really powerful is, so I've been working on positive psychology and coaching techniques for about 10 years. And I'm very, very open about the fact that I've recovered from many eating disorders. And the thing that I'm working on right now is the colonized mind and how you can get to a point where you step outside into the world without experiencing your body,
Hmm.
and to say to other people that I personally have had an extraordinary measure of success using my own techniques
Mm.
gives my clients and others hope that they too can recover from this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a tidbit of personal experience combined with the science and the research that I let lead before me. I'm happy to talk about the science and write about the research till the cows come home, but I don't need to share the nitty-gritty of what happened to me during those years.
Right. So now we're talking about what to share. And in this area, Noelle and I share different things. So Noelle shares more science and everything that she's learned. And I think that's extremely valuable. I share things like climbing a rock in Malibu and almost falling into the water, and I share very kind of human moments. And of course, with that, I do talk about, wellness, and I bring it back to self betterment. But we share very different things, and also that's okay. That's just our
It
style.
it is okay. And you have to have those conversations with yourself and then others in your life. So when it got to a point where it was really obvious that I was going to be expanding as a public person, I sat down with my husband and we had a conversation about how publicly linked to me do you want to be? And the
Right.
answer was not at all.
Mm. Yeah, so that's another place we differ is you keeping your personal life private, which is great, and that's your preference, and then me not as much. Me sharing about my own love experiences and girlfriends and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's conversations there. There's consent, there's, a
right,
willingness on both parties.
right, of
We
course.
actively disconnected ourselves from all things. I don't tag him, he doesn't tag me.
Yeah,
And to the outside world, you'd never even know that I was in a partnered relationship.
right, and that's a choice, and everyone has that choice, and you have to decide what you're comfortable with, and if you have a partner or what he or she is comfortable with, and having that conversation.
And kids
And
and
kids, yeah. Yeah, I have
and
friends who show
parents
kids. I
and
have friends that don't show kids. Yeah, all of that.
it all goes into it.
So what's interesting is, so with Noelle, since she took on the role to be CEO of Journey, and she started helming that, of course, with that comes a lot of responsibility and also different activities, like tons of meetings and management and all that. I went the other way, and I just pressed the gas pedal on this whole idea of sharing your story and using technology and different platforms to do it. So we still do it. We just do it in a different way. And so for me, it's been really interesting to see the evolution. So starting with, about 7 years ago when the blog was a very big deal and everyone was blogging. And then from there, Instagram became the cool kid. So now this idea of microblogging, and then taking your content, spreading it through all social media. And then things like Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives came out, different features, answering asking and answering questions through your platforms. That's become big, and then now podcasting. And so it's been really interesting to live through the spectrum of tools that are coming out to use to share your story. And I've just been having fun with it, but I'm also changing. I don't blog like I used to, but instead I do a podcast almost every day, whether it's me or being a guest on a different podcast. And then, of course, my writing has turned from blogging to now books, and then doing a lot of micro blogging, or what I call breadcrumbing. And so, what's interesting is just how the world is changing and how we're getting information. And I'm just kind of curious to see how this is all going to continue to evolve. I mean, it's definitely not going to go away.
It's certainly not going to go away. And I love that you just really outlined, all of like where literally do you share your story? And you kind of took us through the evolution. My path to sharing has been completely different.
Yeah.
So when I share, I decided that it's more comfortable for me to share in the context of being a steward of the company. So when I show up publicly, it's not as Noelle, it's as Noelle, CEO of JRNI. So
Hmm.
I'm in my professional context. So what
Right.
that looks like is articles on LinkedIn or placement in Forbes, or which, oh, by the way, you pay for.
Mm.
Or to up our SEO, I use a service called Harrow, Help a Reporter Out, which all of you guys listening today can also do to get your name out there, to have pull quotes put in different publications that link back to your personal sites to increase your SEO visibility. And so there is a subset of systems and structures that I employ that probably mirrors John's in complexity. It's just totally different.
Yes, it's totally different. And you know what? It's appropriate, right? So it's more appropriate for you to post stuff on LinkedIn than, say, me.
Right.
It matches what you're doing, and also your audience, and the network that you are engaging with.
Indeed. And I think, for our listeners, the important piece here is if you're experiencing fear and you're feeling, really heavy resistance and overwhelm of, oh my God, I have to follow this path. I don't know where to begin. Just know that there's so much out there and you can find the outlet that works for you. You don't have to follow the herd.
Yeah. What would you recommend the first thing they do? Because I would say um, play with everything first, and you don't have to use everything. But I would say play with it just to see how it makes you feel, and also how people respond to you. Like it's funny if I do a video on Instagram or IGTV, which I've been playing with a lot, and I'll get like, I don't know, 7,000, 8,000 views. I could take that exact video and put it on YouTube, and I'll get like 50 or 100. And so it's not the content, it's kind of what platform you play with.
It's what platform you play with, and it's also the experience. I'd say, you're not going to know how you feel about something until you try. The
Yeah.
way that I learned that I didn't want to do what you do, John, is by trying it and saying, nope, this isn't going to work for me.
Right.
And then finding my sweet spot where I could use my strengths.
Right. Right. And also, leading into the uncomfortable, and then finally, I think consistency.
Consistency is something that I struggle with.
Yeah.
And so I want to hold up the mirror here, because for what John does with creating content as a wellness celebrity author influencer, John, what do we call you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a celebrity. I'm just a guy who's been sharing his story since 2010. But yeah, the invention of the word influencer has become interesting. So I mean, I guess I do fit in that category. I don't know what makes you an influencer. I guess if you start making endorsement money, or if you hit a certain number, I don't know. I don't know what qualifies you as an influencer, but I don't know. I don't know what my title would be, but um, yeah,
That's okay.
I
We
do it
can
full
figure
time.
out what you are another day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I don't know what I do, but I do it full time.
yeah,
Yeah. So for John's role, consistently, because this consistency is incredibly important because people want to hear from you. They're expecting to hear from you. They feel sad when they don't hear from you. They're looking for your words to feel better. And I think that's a huge distinction. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, gee, I wonder what the CEO of JRNI Coaching posted today, and will it make me feel better? People don't perceive me as a public entity. And so for me, consistency is less important and
right,
it's more about
right.
impact.
It's because we have different roles in our company,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
So if
also, Noelle doesn't have the time that I do because she has other stuff to do. And then since I'm doing this full time, my job is to do this full time. So that's why,
Yes.
yeah, that's why I'm going to be a lot more consistent than she is. If one day you don't see a video, hear a podcast, or read anything, um, something happened with me.
Yes.
That's
Get
how all the people
concerned.
right. That's how all the people will know that something happened is that they don't see posting. I try to post about 4 or 5 times a day, so if the posting stops, something went wrong.
Yep.
Anyway,
I'll come looking for you if I
yeah,
don't see a post.
yes. I do highly encourage you guys to play with it. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to grow and expand. There's going to be new platforms, and at the end of the day, it's a tool. Um, so use it and customize it to the way that it's going to benefit you according to your goals as a coach. It's the way you create reach. If not, and you just want to create a dialogue and you don't necessarily care about getting clients and stuff, or you just want to be heard, I think it's just great for you as an individual to be heard and to wave your flag and say what you have to say.
All the things.
Yeah.
All the things.
All
We
right.
need, more strong voices are never wasted.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys. Be heard, find your voice, and get out there.
Awesome. Have a great one.
You too.